Friday night football kickoffs over the years have had a tendency to either fly under the radar or be the wildest, craziest things you've ever seen. Last year, I believe Stanford and Colorado was a Friday night kickoff in Boulder, and Colorado blew something in the neighborhood of a 29-0 lead. I remember many years ago, Richie Bradshaw of Locked On Sun Devils is going to hate me for bringing this up, but 2015, Oregon at Arizona State, Vernon Adams basically pulls off a 30-yard Hail Mary in which Dwayne Stanford caught the ball sliding on his rear end, catching it behind him to tie the game, send it to overtime. There was a controversial call. Anyway, Oregon won. So I look at this lineup of Friday night kickoffs that got released. I think we could have some madness. And the one that jumps off the page for an upset here is Utah at UCF. Utah are my favorites and everybody's favorite to win the Big 12 this season. Why? Because on paper, they're the best team. That should not have been an 8-win team a year ago, but they were because Kyle Whittingham's great. They bring Brant Keithy back at tight end to support, Cam Rising, who in his last 2 seasons of starting college football won the Pac-12, which was deeper than, or I don't know if deeper is the right word. It was stronger than this current iteration of the Big 12, which is a very deep conference. But if you put this Big 12 against the Pac-12s that Cam Rising won, those Pac-12 conferences were better. So that guy was Kyle Whittingham. They're the favorites. On Friday, November 29th, they go at UCF. Do not, in the slightest, overlook this football game. UCF, I have talked about them before here on the show. They have been making some real transfer portal moves. They're not acting like a Big 12 team that is shaking off the Group of 5 label. They're acting like a Big 12 team that wants to jump forward in the timeline. They want to take the time stone from Doctor Strange and just, like Thanos with the gauntlet. They want to just twist it forward and say, yeah, all right, we're primetime recruiter. We're bringing big-time portal names to the program, and we're ready to go out. They have a win total of 7.5. 7.5. Do you know who else has a win total of 7.5 in the Big 12? Allow me to illustrate. Oklahoma State, Mike Gundy, one of the best coaches in all of college football, win total of 7.5. Arizona, trendy Big 12 title contender and playoff dark horse. I am not high on the Wildcats going into this year. I think they've lost just a little bit too much, but they made another move recently. Picked up a former top 150 player at the running back position from Ole Miss. Don't hate that move whatsoever. Still, I don't think the Wildcats can live up to the hopes that they would have had if Jed Fish had stuck around. But they have the same win total as UCF. They're just not the same. They're not the same as Houston, Cincinnati, and BYU, who are fighting their way out of the bottom of the league right now. And I don't know how successful any of them are going to be. Willie Fritz, year 1 of a rebuild. Cincinnati, not real high expectations. BYU, I like Kalani Sitake. Don't love the quarterback room in any way, shape, or form. But you've got KJ Jefferson, who has Power 5 starting and winning experience, and a non-traditional power in the SEC like Arkansas, coming over to UCF. You bring in Penny Boone at the running back position amidst a variety of other transfers. Then we got Nigel Kelly, the defensive end from Miami, who entered the portal, former blue chip guy. That game, late in the year, Friday night kickoff, at Central Florida. This is not a game that is going to be played inside the cozy confines of Rice-Eccles Stadium for the Utes. They have to go on the road. Of all these Friday night kickoffs, think about the last several college football seasons. Do you remember a year in which Friday nights haven't featured a legitimate upset or a crazy game? You're going to have that this year. The lineup on Fox goes like this. Starting Friday, September 13th. Maybe I should have led with that. Perhaps that was the big takeaway from this lineup of Friday night games. There's a Friday the 13th football game. It's Arizona at Kansas State, by the way. That game's in Manhattan. Give me Kansas State. Early prediction. That might be the first game prediction that I have made here on the show, but I like Kansas State more than I like Arizona, and Kansas State's at home. So that's the first game. Is that important enough for you? Oh, we're just getting warmed up. Illinois at Nebraska. Matt Rule better not lose that game. Washington at Rutgers. That's a Big Ten conference game. Washington. I'm not a meteorologist, but it would look something like this. Over here in this part of the country, those watching on YouTube are getting this. We have Washington. And then Piscataway is like over here. It's way, 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 way over there. That's a conference game now. Long trip. Never know. Rutgers was a bowl team last year. Don't sleep. Washington's having a soft reset. I'll say they've done a nice job in the transfer portal. Michigan State at Oregon. Jonathan Smith has surprised Dan Lanning once before. That is all I shall say. Northwestern at Maryland. Oregon at Purdue. Yeah, I stopped on that one. Stopped on that. Oregon at Purdue. Have you ever seen a top 5 team lose at Purdue? I have. Friday night game in West Lafayette. Ooh, boy. Kind of spicy. Rutgers at USC. That's a late kickoff, by the way. That game, talk about utilizing the Western time zone. Rutgers at USC, 11 p.m. Eastern kick at the Coliseum. Iowa at UCLA. Now, there's an interesting football game. Just because it's Iowa on the road, I don't expect much from UCLA. They're at home. You never know. UCLA at Washington. That's a Big Ten matchup now. Purdue at Michigan State. Not the biggest stakes. Utah at UCF, and then the Mountain West Championship, which will probably feature Boise State, but is not guaranteed to do so. So that's the Friday night slate. I think it's great. Now, are Saturdays paramount? Are they the most important? Yes, of course. Of course. Saturday is what we care about above all else. But impact games and wonderful appetizers regularly take place on Friday nights. And I think that lineup of games will feature some crazy ones. Like the games that don't have the biggest stakes. Northwestern, Maryland, Purdue, Michigan State, for instance. Iowa at UCLA. That one maybe a touch bigger, but Illinois, Nebraska. It feels like one of those games that doesn't have a top 10 team in it is just going to go bonkers. It's just got like Colorado Stanford last year. It just went, it was drunk. It deserved a Kevin Harlan. The guy is drunk, but there he goes. The game was blacked out, okay? It was not a brownout drunk. It was not feeling woozy. No, that was blackout drunk. That's what it was. One of those games is going to happen on there. But the upset that I'd watch for on that list, sorry to say, Utah fan, I'm not saying I'm picking it. It's too early for predictions, except Kansas State over Arizona and Manhattan on Friday the 13th. Going to be a good football game, I would imagine. UCF against Utah. Could they at least play spoiler this year? That late in the year, Utah will be a Big 12 title contender. We shall find out. Season is under 100 days away. It's a beautiful thing. Appreciate everyone listening. I will see you next time. And until then, hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. This episode of Locked On College Football brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets. Say you want to go to Game 2 between the Timberwolves and the Mavericks, then guess what? Game Time is the place to go. If you want to attend the Eastern Conference Finals or the NBA Finals, which will probably be the Celtics, and I hope the Timberwolves. I really do. I really, really do. The Wolves deserve it. But you can find everything you want over at Game Time. Save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. You can save even more with exclusive in-app deals. Just go check them out. They take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets. That is what Game Time is about. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCollege. All one word, college in all caps for $20 off. That's Locked On College. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.